The short pieces of work in The Unborn and Undead illustrate the system of abortion and women's reproductive health as undermined in a long term battle for women's reproductive rights. Based on the literature, I believe that after the 1970s, the Republican Party played a significant role in restricting reproductive health rights for women by restricting abortion clinic access. Roe v. Wade allowed for abortion access and the right to abortion for all women. However, because Roe v. Wade had not been overturned at the time, the most feasible way to restrict abortions was to create expectations for abortion clinics to meet, which were medically unnecessary in order to continue operation. If clinics did not meet these expectations, they were not allowed to operate, leading to an inevitable decrease in abortion clinics, which affirmed abortion restrictions in certain states. According to Kimport, 282 state level abortion restrictions were enacted in the last 5 years, and the four common types were ambulatory surgery center standards, which meant facilities had to meet the structural requirements of an ambulatory surgery center, and physicians were required to have admitting privileges, which means they had to be licensed to treat patients in a hospital. And then there were waiting periods assigned before abortion decisions and pre-abortion ultrasounds. In society, abortion rights in Tennessee are banned. While I have no need for an abortion, I do know of individuals who fight for that right. And if they need an abortion due to health reasons, they would have to go to another state to obtain one. However, I believe in another state, abortion would be just as difficult to obtain due to the overturning of Roe v. Wade and the few states allowing abortion clinics to operate. As a child, Aspen Baker grew up in a Christian community, and her views on abortion were aligned with the pro life community. Her sense of bodily autonomy at a young age was guided by her morals and views, which held that abortion was wrong because it ended a life. She therefore believed that she could never have an abortion until she finally did. She felt safe making that decision after a friend shared her own story of having an abortion, and I believe Aspen discovered her bodily autonomy. Well, she discovered that bodily autonomy can be embraced through the story of others. She did not take full ownership of or find strength in her autonomy until she felt empowered by her friend's experience. According to Aspen, she co founded an organization called Exhale to listen to people who had abortions. She also created a talk line for both women and men to call and share not only stories about abortion, but about personal struggles such as immigration, health issues, and family challenges. Her main approach was to give a voice to these stories so that individuals could feel heard and empowered as they move forward in decision making or process their personal struggles. I grew up in a Christian household and was raised to be pro life because, according to my father, who is a pastor, abortion is viewed as a sin in the Bible. As a child, I considered abortion a terrible act, but as I entered high school and began hearing stories from individuals who had abortions, my perspective shifted. I not only developed a deeper respect for women's bodily autonomy, but I also gained an increased respect for my own. I found strength in my own autonomy, and my views changed as I learned to empathize with the experience of others who had abortions. In 2021, Colbert predicted that Roe v. Wade would be overturned within a year, and I believe she was correct because Roe v. Wade was indeed overturned on June 24, 2022. Colbert argued that the ideas supporting abortion, such as protecting fetal rights and safeguarding women's health, were central to the debate. She believed that the fight to ban abortion was fundamentally about controlling women's rights. I think the reason why she predicted that Roe v. Wade would be overturned was that it only took 5 justices to remove abortion rights. According to Colbert, the Save Roe v. Wade strategy is no longer a viable option, and she proposes two alternatives: creating strong social justice movements to fight for women's reproductive rights, and then electing legislators committed to defending reproductive health. If reproductive rights are not actively protected, legal restrictions could extend beyond abortion, potentially affecting access to birth control or even same sex marriage. I believe that Roe v. Wade could be easily overturned, that if Roe v. Wade could be easily overturned, other reproductive rights and rights in general are also at risk. In society, I never thought that Roe v. Wade would be overturned, but when the news came out, I remember thinking that predis- pre- if this could have been undone, women across the U.S. would lose access to essential reproductive rights, even in cases of rape, incest, or medical necessity. Abortion access was restricted, signaling that others could be threatened as well. This is especially concerning for fragile cases like the Obergefell versus Hodges, which legalized same sex marriages. And I believe that if justices can vote against women's reproductive rights, even when medically necessary, there is little to prevent them from attempting to strip individuals of other rights in the future. I believe forced sterilization is a procedure imposed on individuals deemed unfit to prevent them from reproducing. The Supreme Court supported this practice through the Buck v. Bell decision, which removed reproductive rights from those considered unfit. Based on the literature, I understand that children with disabilities and adults under conservatorships can be sterilized if deemed unfit to reproduce. The rationale behind forced sterilization is supposedly in the best interest of the individual and the life being reproduced. However, I disagree because the true best interest would involve giving the individuals the right to choose or providing them with resources to safeguard their choice if something were to go wrong. According to Unfit, Britney Spears' conservatorship prevented her from conceiving more children, requiring her to have an IUD to ensure she would not. Her conservatorship allowed her guardians to permit forced sterilization. Her right to reproduce was taken away because she was deemed unfit to operate independently. Consequently, she was considered unfit to take care of a child as well. I believe that the government halts reproduction for some due to the perceived risk of creating individuals incapable of independent, safe functioning, while forcing others to give birth as a form of control under the assumption that healthy individuals have no reason not to reproduce. Today, an individual can theoretically be forcibly sterilized because of the Buck v. Bell decision and the fact that it has not been overturned. Forced sterilization underscores how the legal system can invalidate individuals' bodily autonomy. Our right to control our own bodies is vulnerable to government decisions. In society, I remember the widespread discourse surrounding Britney Spears' conservatorship and the news of her family and the news of her finally being free from it. I had not fully understood the gravity of her conservatorship beyond the fact that she could not make important decisions without her guardians. I was particularly in shock to learn that her conservatorship included the possibility of forced sterilization. This topic reminded me of another case in Georgia where a pregnant, brain dead woman was kept on life support for 3 months to preserve her fetus until it was ready for birth. Even though she was brain dead, the government effectively forced her body to sustain a pregnancy due to abortion restrictions, highlighting the severe limits placed on women's bodily autonomy. I believe abortion and sterilization are related because laws often dictate the decisions surrounding both procedures. Abortion is about having bodily autonomy to terminate an unwanted pregnancy due to medical reasons or personal needs, while sterilization involves the choice to permanently prevent reproduction through procedures such as an IUD, tubal ligation, tubal ligation, or vasectomy. The overturn of Roe v. Wade has effectively banned the right to abortion, and cases like Buck v. Bell have forced sterilization on women deemed unfit to reproduce. Both abortion and sterilization involve bodily autonomy and, to varying degrees, control by the government. According to Unfit, Mark Bold was surprised to see that despite the eugenics movement, which advocated preventing reproduction among people with undesired traits, being discredited, the Buck v. Bell ruling has still not been overturned. I believe that the eugenics movement was one of the attempts to take back bodily autonomy in forced sterilization that was taken away by Buck v. Bell. However, it was never considered a sufficient enough reason to overturn the case. The same applies to abortion. Although abortions have been used for medically necessary reasons, this has not been enough to restore the right to abortion. The government has prioritized control over individuals in order to support what it deems the welfare of the nation rather than empowering individuals to exercise their bodily autonomy for the nation's well being. In society, I believe that in the future, bodily autonomy regarding reproductive rights may largely cease to exist, especially for women. Women may no longer be able to obtain an abortion under any circumstances, and if deemed unfit, they could lose the right to decide whether to undergo sterilization. While men could also be affected, I do not believe such restrictions would occur as severely for men as they would for women.